All right, so we are doing a little bit of Devon on this Flatiron School LMS-y kind of thing. So a feature I'm working on right now is restricting access. So what we want to do is have like these resources. You can see them as any user, but you should only be able to add them if you're logged in. I don't think I actually have a user set up on this computer yet. Let's take a little look-see. Okay, perfect. So I have it in the seeds. So if I npm run migration, there we go. Runs a migration, and the seeds. Dope. So now I should be able to log in. Uh-oh. We'll see what it didn't like. Got 200 back. Got back the right payload. So, let's figure out why that's not working. It's probably in the store. Maybe take a look at this login view. There we go. All right, so that's where the login is happening. It's using the login service. Hey, Stephanie.
What's going on?
Not much.
Danica is ready to take her coding challenge today.
Okay.
Or whatever. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to run it?
Sure. Is it just the same one as before?
Yeah, except you sit with her.
Cool.
And you can answer questions and stuff, and that's it.
Awesome.
Cool.
And in an hour? Is how long?
Yep, correct. Okay. So what this is doing, all right, so it throws that particular error if it doesn't get a token back. So is there a token? There's not. Good to know. So if I hop over here, login controller. So it's using jot.sign. And somehow that token's never actually getting made. So let's, if it was unable to generate the token, oh shit, I think I know exactly what it is. Can anybody in this room figure out why this block of code would not have included a token? Nope, good guess. Let's just take a look at the jot.sign, the first two arguments of that. So it takes in an object, that's the thing that I'm signing. It has the key, which is the code that I'm signing it with. And then the third argument is a function. And this is standard in Node, not in Express, but in just raw Node stuff. The first argument is always an error. And so it's pretty common to do something like this. We go if error throw new error problem signing broken. And so like, I'll bet that's exactly what we'd get if we try to do that again. So if I do that, there we go. Invalid credentials, which is that error now. So what does that tell us? What didn't work? Yes, that's essentially it. Because there was an error in this callback, and so it threw this, and we got that. There's not a whole lot to this method, though. What could have possibly gone wrong? This object is formatted correctly. What's the only other thing that could have gone wrong in that signing?
So we're going to use creating the secret key.
Good. Okay, it should be in my environment. Okay, how do I put stuff in my environment?
You're talking backend, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
This library is taking a file called .env and loading all of the little key value pairs in that into the environment. So if I look at .env, I see my development database name, I see my production database string. What don't I see here?
You don't see the binding for the secret key.
Yep, I don't have a secret key. And it's because that doesn't get checked into source control ever. This entire file is getting ignored. I started this feature on another computer. I put a secret key on it. Different secret key on a different computer. So, what's extra interesting about that though is if you look at these, that's signed with a particular key. I don't have that key on this computer. Womp womp. All right, no big deal. So, generate secret key. And not a big deal to just have one key on one computer and one key on another. Like, who cares? It's the most important thing is it's going to be a completely different key than this in production. So I can have a key, you can have a key on our local computers. It's just going to be a different one in production. And actually, I don't think I can do all those symbols. There we go. I'm just going to change that. Something else. Do that plus. Cool. Here's my secret key. And now, if I haven't been doing this yet. I think I need to be able to make a user also. That'll get around that seeding problem. All right, dope. So I'm going to make a new controller. Shut up. There it is. I'm going to make a new controller called create user controller. Takes in a request and a response. And it takes in let's see, let's take a look at my schema for this. First name, last name, username, password, and then I'm going to leave the roll off. So how about I bring in first name, last name, username, password, out of rec.body, or rec.body for me. See, those are underscored. All right, just keep them that way. Jumping back and forth between camel or snake casing and camel casing is a super good use case for serializer, FYI. Okay, so I have those things. When you pass those in, I want to const what's it called? Password digest. Yep. Equals bcrypt dot hash. We'll look up the bcrypt docs. Is it called hash? There we go. Yeah, it's just .hash. So I'm going to hash the password. We'll do 10 rounds of salting, and then that's going to take an error and the hash. Actually, I think I can just promise. Yeah, dope. Much better. I can just treat it like a promise. That's going to take the hash. And now that I have the hash, I want to do, what's it called, database? Oh, actually, I think I extracted out all the database stuff. Yeah. Create user. So over in that file, function create user. To create a user, we need first name, last name, username, password. I'm doing a trick on this one that I do a lot. I'm going to pass it in as an object, and then I'm going to destructure it on the way in so that these are available just as variables. Yeah. So I can do something like current database user select, oops, not select, insert first name, last name, username.
I had a question.
Yeah.
About best practices around creating default variables when you're defining the arguments of a function. So
Okay.
for instance, like,
Yeah.
you know, there was like in the CS to write a recursive function that sums an array.
Okay.
And rather than, you know, keeping track of some variable, I was
Mhm.
just defining sum equal to 0 as a default variable as an argument. So,
Like in your reduce?
no, so just
Okay.
like write a recursive function from scratch
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying.
that sums an array.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Okay.
I'll do that. So the general thought on when to use default parameters is if it is truly a default, not just a common case. So absent anything else, what would you expect it to be? And something like a recursive function, yeah, I'd say it's good. Simplifies the interface a little bit too. Okay. So this is going to be my create user. So the reason I'm destructuring on the way in, and then again here, so that was in. I'm going to return create user and give it first name, last name, username, password digest. Any guesses why I'm passing in an object, destructuring it, passing in object shorthand, instead of just using these as like 4 different arguments? Any guesses why I think that's a better design? What is more durable about that than just passing in those 4 arguments? I'll give you a hint. The way that I've written it, that still works.
Oh, I see. The objects don't have an order, whereas
Exactly.
arguments do.
Yes.
Or parameters.
Right. So if I have an arbitrary number of things, don't rely on getting the order of that right. You won't. And you won't at a really inconvenient time, and you'll lose a day debugging it. So do something that doesn't have any order. Really, like, if you're at a point where a function is taking more than 3 arguments, like, reevaluate. That's almost never the right move. That's why you see so many things that will take think about the fetch API, for instance. It takes a URL and then an optional options object that has every other thing that you might pass in. That's why that pattern exists. Because otherwise, can you imagine if it was like, okay, well, the URL, the method is the second argument, the headers are the third argument. If you don't need any headers, just pass in null. The next thing you pass in is the body. Like, that's a mess. So pass in an object and destructure it.
And then then parameters are the key. It assigns the key.
Yep.
And then gives it the value.
Yes. Exactly. So I'm going to take user out of that, and probably response status 201, and then JSON the user. Yeah. And then I want to catch any errors, and we'll do a response status 400, and then JSON error couldn't add user. Okay, that's okay. So now I want to see, do it work? So this is running on 3000, post request. I'm posting to users. Oop, do I have that route set up? This is the create user controller. Create user controller. If it matches that method and that URL, make this thing handle it. Okay, nice. And in its body, first name, calico release, oops, last name, Coberly. So I'm going to make one for the misses. Username. Password. All right, so if I do that, let's see what I get back. Couldn't get a response. App crashed. Aha! So I wrote that wrong. That's on controllers 53. So this just look like that. All right, server running. No. Post was a callback function, but got object undefined. That's, oh, because I'm not exporting that. Create user controller. Dope. We're running. We're running. Couldn't add user. 400. All right. What didn't it like? Nothing crashed over here. That's good. Create user controller. Oop, that's supposed to be password digest, and this doesn't need to be assigned anymore. Because I'm hashing, and then creating the user, and then responding. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Any errors? No errors. Okay, so let's debug. Am I getting this far? I am. I got a hash coming in. Cool. Am I think I know the answer to this. Am I getting this far? Almost definitely not. Correct. So I'm masking the actual error here by doing my own, but there is an actual error message. So how about I take a look at that? Create user is not a function. That's descriptive. I'm pulling it in from data. Am I exporting it? I'm not. That would be why. Cool. There we go. There we go. Oh shit, it gave me back an array though. I don't want that. So maybe that way. Some kind of problem. All right, what about all right, I'm going to do it this way. So I was debating whether or not to, instead of bringing back an array, I only ever make one user at a time. And so I want an object back, not an array. So the way that I'm going to handle this is just by, all right, actually bring back that. I was debating whether to do that here or in the thing that's using create user. There's never a case where I want the array, so I'm going to do it that way. So now, there we go. No, this returns back every field that you added. Queries by default return arrays, every one of them. So that's why. All right, slick. So now that I have this create user done, and I can just make users, I think the next thing that I want to do is, yep. Oh, it's coming back as, well, I don't hate that. But I think the format I actually want back is probably something like Instead of that, what if I spread it? Yeah, I want that back, I think. Maybe. No, I'm gonna say no. Okay, cool. So now I can make a user. And now I need a way to do that on the front end. So front end wise, let's figure it out. Probably want.
Did you get a wireless one?
I've had a wireless one.
It's always been wireless?
Always been wireless. So I probably want something that's at the same level as login. But like a create user thing that's right next to that. And I want a form. Maybe a heading. Even this I'm starting to get skeptical of, because ultimately I think I want to use GitHub for auth on this. I'm questioning how deep down this rabbit hole I want to go. This far. All I'm ever going to make is admins with this form. Oh shoot, which reminds me, I need to add that to the role type. First name, last name, and then username, password. Actually, I want to flip the order on those. Cool. So to do this, I need a route to create users with. I'll call this create user, create user, create user. Touch source use create user.view. Grab my login component. I'll just steal all of it. Create user. I'm going to use these form input things again. I made those. And this one will be labeled first name. That one will be last name. And all of them are required. What up, baby? Pretty good. All right, so I'm pulling all those in. This should work largely the same.
You want to create a field for password validation or the matching and confirm?
I could. I'm not super worried about it. Okay, and then I want to do a couple things. So I'm going to dispatch to a different service. So I need to make one in that user service. So right now this has an action called login. We also want something in the user service for create. We're going to post to users this time. Again, this is a super good use case for serialization. Anytime like you use one naming standard on one thing and a different naming standard on something else, no bueno. But this is like poor man's serialization. None of that. Oh, this would be kind of interesting. You could also like have it log in. I'm not going to though. Perfect. So that's going to be our create user action, or create user, yeah, action. So we're going to dispatch to that there, and we're going to send it first name form data dot get first name last name, and then I don't want to push to home, I want to push to login. So I'm going to push to name, login, and then catch errors. Neat. I think all I need to do now is just link to that on the main page. All right, so got this. So if there is a user ID, then I want it to go to create user. Cool. And that should only be something you're allowed to do when you log in. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So one of these should work. Kyle Coverly. There we go. So I'm looking for something up here that'll do that. Oh, I didn't change the text. That's not login, that's create user. Cool, so this create user option up here, if I go there, it should take me to my form. This form is large. Why gotta be so large? So, why is it so large? That form should be constrained. Oh, sick, it's not doing any of these. That makes sense. Create user. There we go. Okay. And all right, I'm kind of curious to see if this works. That's right. This is not called login anymore. This is called create user. Cool. Get off my jock about it. There we. Let's see. Okay, let's see what didn't it like. Oh, it created the user. Cool. So let's see what the problem was. That's not telling me. That's not telling me. But it thinks it got an error. How strange. Tell me over here. Nope. Is there... Yeah. Okay, so it did that. It did not send me to log in. It caught it. So there was something in that service it didn't like. Which means there's something in this that threw an error. Oh! Ah! I see it. This will never have a token. That's fine. All right, it worked. Let's try to make another one. If I make Patrick oop, it should probably disguise that password. So I go over to form input. Okay, so the type is hard-coded. This is a good example of a default. So I'm going to say the type is the type, and then I can say type default text, and that's it. So now if I need to override that to something else, I can. So I'm going to say the type is password. Nope. And the type of this should be string. Okay. So now I want to see, is there any, is it getting in some other way? So it's defaulting to text. It's not what I want. And binding the type of the input, which is what I want to do, the type variable, which is being passed in as a prop. It is being set there. Oh, this I'm on the. This is login, not create user. It should also be there too, but let's make that a type equals password. And now, there we go. Much better. So if I do Ricardo, Ortega, cool, and that takes me to the login page. And now if I try to log in as Ricardo, then Ricardo can log in. Slip. And Ricardo can create new users. All right, next thing that I'm noticing. This is good. For one, should probably be flipped. That's a little better. And also, kind of feel like these should be in a group. Which makes sense visually and semantically, that all those kind of belong together. And then the way that you get them to not just jam up next to each other, this is app header, section, have do something like, I want to target all, I'll target A's that follow A's, and if you're right after one, you should have a margin left of, start with baseline. There we go. Okay, so when Ricardo is logged in, you can create new users. That's pretty good. Okay, so big picture. As an admin, I want to restrict who can add a learning resource to other admins. So all that's working pretty good. So I also need to it's under standard, I want to say. Nope. Nope. Add resource. Standard card. Yeah. This add resource form. This entire thing I want to hide if you're not logged in. So that would probably be something like where I pull in the user ID. If I look at that user service, yeah, I'd get it from there. So I can return this dot store dot state dot services dot user user ID. Pretty sure that's how that works. Yeah. This dot store dot state services user ID. Cool. And now I can add that to these. So you should see this button if you're not adding a resource and it's not an error. Actually, I'm going to hide the entire thing. Oh, fuck. It has to be in an LI, though. Of course it does. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
The add button? Did the task of rendering to that component? And if it shouldn't render, just have it return null?
Like it wouldn't react?
Yeah.
I'm mostly concerned about the semantics on this. So right now, I think that's the problem. I've got a list of resources, and then the last thing on the list is either this add button or the form to create a new resource or its error. I think that the problem is that those aren't actually list items that belong in that resources thing. All right, how about this? What if I yank these out? Put them right there. This. Then I can do that, the section that I wanted to do, where this entire section only shows up if you have a user ID. If you have a user ID, all the rest of the stuff applies. So rather than this being like that, I probably want to add that stuff directly. No need to add one of these just to have one. Is adding resource and not error. Give it a class of add resource beaten, and then get rid of that altogether. There's some styles that are going to break when I do this, but I think it'll overall still be better. And then this becomes I think the same thing, where add resource form. This is a VLs. And then this error kind of hangs out on its own. And no LI. There's still something I'm not sure about with this, but we'll see. Okay. So if I'm Ricardo and I go over here, I don't see the thing to add more resources though. First thing I want to check is like, did I just hide it in the DOM through some styling shit? No. That, anytime you see this in view, means there's something there that got ifed out. So that means that like his user ID isn't showing up or something. So I don't even need to do that. How about I just take a look in the view inspector? What I got loaded up? Services, user, state. Oh, yeah, it's just ID. There we go. There we go. All right, and now Ricardo has that button. Oh, that doesn't break that bad. That's okay. That can still cancel. Dope. And if I log out and go here, don't see the button. Dope. And then if I log in, I do Patrick. Is that not it? I thought that's what it was. Maybe me. Then I see the button. Swick! Awesome. I've effectively gotten the functionality of this user story at this point. And on top of that, added the ability to create users so they don't have to rely on that dopey seed. In fact, I think I'm going to get rid of that seed. Can I first run an insert query? That's why that wasn't working. So I'm going to go to RM seeds users. I'm not seeding users anymore. Cool. And All right. So now look at my definition of done. Is this styled? Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And that shows up and goes away. Yeah, I'll take that. Is it deployed? I'll do that. Move that to the end. Tested. npm test. Cool. I got passing tests. Over here, npm test. Test e2e. Any day now. You know, the most infuriating part of this is that the reason it's running slow is like my corporate spyware. The entire fact that that's a thing. Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. If you look into the mirror, you may see that the code is running itself. Any fucking day now, man. Oop. Womp womp. There we go. I'm actually going to try running that again. Hey, what do you know? They pass now. God damn it. Okay, cool. So I need to clean up that one. The thing you just saw is called test flake, and it tends to never happen with unit tests, and it tends to always happen with event tests. Test flake is without changing anything in the code. Sometimes the test pass, sometimes it doesn't. And as you might imagine, a lot more common when you're working with, say, a network or a slow browser or something like that, or corporate spyware. Okay, so restricts adding resources, logging users as resources standard. Okay, so we gotta, I have a hunch that we don't actually need to change any code, but we probably do need to change the test. Okay, perfect. So I need to do something here to log a user in. Trying to think of an easy way to make this happen. What is this doing? I'll bet I might be able to manipulate the store directly, which would be kind of dope. Cypress, view, CLI, add, manipulate store. All right, so this has it doing it through NPM, which is fine. Doesn't really help us though. Page object pattern, that's pretty good. Store testing. Oh. I don't know if I like that at all. I don't know. This would do exactly what I'm thinking, though. Okay, so what it's suggesting that I do is over in main.js, when I make this new instance, actually save it, yeah, and then expose it, which yeah, I'm gonna say if window.cypress, then window.app equals app. Who knows what that window thing I'm doing there is? Let me explain how these three lines of code work.
So, which three? 4 through 1?
The last three lines on the screen. 2, 3, and 4. Kinda. Like the browser, more properly speaking, is navigator. Windows close though. It's kind of in the ballpark.
It looks like you're checking if Cypress is going to work on the window.
We assume that Cypress puts that variable on somewhere while it's running. What's window? Window's the global scope. So if I want to make a global variable, that's how I do it. So we've like accidentally made global variables before by not using the const keyword or something like that. You actually can't do any of that kind of shit in module land. If you're using import export, it won't let you do that. If you wanted to create a global anyway, that's how. So I'm taking the view instance and making it available as a global if Cypress is running. And I'm saving the new view instance as that. Do I need to do the mount in different steps? Actually, I think I almost definitely need to do that mount separately though. Cool. So now over here, I should be able to do something like app.window.app, and then do all the same shit that I can do in a view component. Store state services user ID equals 1. So I'm going to count that as a logged in user, and then all of that should work. Back over here. Cool. Cannot read property store of undefined, so I might need to, it almost definitely needs to restart this entire server. Alright, I run the specs. Cannot read property store of undefined. Go back to this thing and see how it had me doing it. Ooh. Oh, I see. I need to get it off of. I need to do a little yield like this. Weird. Alright, that's fine. So this is sci.window. And then it's app.store. And it has this as a function. I'm guessing so that it can yield. Let's get store equals something like that. I'll put this up here. Now I kind of want to see what store equals get store. You can do this in Cypress test too. It's kind of cool. You can actually like look in the console log. You can actually look in the console log. You can actually look in the console log any day now, man. There we go. It comes back as a fucking chainer. Alright, hang on. I wonder if... What does that do? Hey, what's up, Brian? Okay, so that's coming back as undefined. Alright, what is on window then? Is it still the chainer? Still comes back as a chainer. Ugh. Alright, so in that case, what if I do store and then do it this way? It's state.services.user. Still a chainer. I'm gonna take a look at what this it's doing in Cypress. Okay. What about just the window? But if any other way I can deal with this? Ah, I see. Oh, not a problem. It just needs a callback. That's a lot easier than it's. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this like login. And what it's going to do is take sci.window and oh, you know what? This would actually also be pretty good as an async function. Do window dot app store state services user ID. That's called login. All right, what's that do? There's something it doesn't like about the async. Async await Cypress. All right. Okay, it doesn't. I don't think it likes using async await. That sucks. That would have been actually a pretty good use case for one. All right, that's fine. If I take the window, I'll bet I can return this chain and use that as a promise. Let's see. Null. Null? You're null. It didn't throw an error. That's something. Oh, and sick, because I haven't actually set it to anything. That actually makes sense. So what if I do ID equals 1? There we go, there we go. Okay, so I'm setting it there. Now the thing that I need to do is I need to make it wait for this. So as soon as that's done, and do this. I think there's a more elegant syntax for that in Cypress, but YOLO. Okay, so I'm in. That's good. Expected to find add resource button. No, it's right there. Oh, but it's looking for. I remember I took it out of that thing, and so the this is just different. Dope. Cool. So tests are passing. Error handling. There's actually a little bit that needs to get done here. I need to. I've done a pretty good job restricting all this on the front end. I need to do a little bit of protection on the back end also. Because the way that it is right now, you don't get a link to do this stuff if you're not logged in. You can still like just send those requests to the back end. with Postman or something like that. All right, so now I think about what do I need to restrict here? So adding a resource, posting a resource, creating a user, both of those things should require a valid token. So the most common way to do that in Node is to add a middleware. So that's going to be a thing that goes right here. So you might do something like authenticate user. And also for adding resources, authenticate user. And the way this works is fucking cool. It's like, it's the neatest pattern in Node, and you never really have to work with it directly all that much. But in cases like this, it's really the power of this entire middleware pattern. It works like this. So I have a request object and a response object. First argument, second argument. The middleware pattern is we just look for one thing after another, one function after another, to do whatever it wants with those two things. For example, the cores middleware, all it does is it modifies the response object so that it has headers for access control allow origin, and then it calls a kind of a secret third parameter called next. That's a function. Whenever you call that, it looks for other middleware that matches this. And so that could be something like body parser. Body parser takes in a request and a response, and this next function does whatever it wants to these two objects and then calls next. And it looks for another piece of middleware. For example, authentication middleware. What that's going to do is we can take a look at the job that gets sent, whatever else, and then we can do something like add a request.user object that has whatever matching user shit. We can also throw an error so that it matches an error middleware next. And then lastly, this is like the sneaky thing in Express. It'll match a route, because routes are just middleware. Middleware is anything that takes in a request, response, and a next object. Fucking cool. No, cores, and it's handlers for those. But the way that we did this, app.use is just like app.get.post.options.whatever, except it matches every method. And if you don't give it a string as the first argument, it'll match every path also. So this is getting applied to every single request. And that's how it knows to respond to options requests. Neat. Yeah. This one? Yep. Good call. All right, there we go. So let's make a function for that. Middleware, so it takes in request, response, and next. And what we'll do is get the token, parse the token, also validate token, look up the user, add it to the request, or fail it. So the request should come in on request rec.body. Oh no, actually that comes in on the auth header. So that's request dot headers dot authorization dot, so that's the whole thing, dot split on the space, and give me the second one. Yeah. Okay, so that's the token. And then I want to take in, let's see, I want to, how am I going to validate that? I'm going to use the jot, the jot package. I should have already. Okay. And see, these are for signing. I want to decode. Thank you. This will not verify whether the signature. You most likely want to. Okay, as I was going to check, because I want to get the contents of the token, but I also want to see if they fuck with them. And so verify will make sure that like they didn't change their username or something, because then the signatures won't actually work. So, and then it gives you the decoded one. Perfect. So we're going to do jot.verify token process.env.secret key, and then it takes in a function, takes an error, and decoded token, and then we do whatever. So the whatever that we want to do is so we've validated the token. Want to look up the user. So let's take a look at what we're actually putting on this. The login controller. We're giving it the ID that's in the job. So let's look up the user by ID. I think there's a way that we can do that already. Yeah, we get user from data. So we pull in get user, and then, oh, fuck, I hate this. Let's, I kind of want to promisify this. Fuck, I'll refactor that. So I want to get the user and the format that's looking for is username, E. All right. I don't like that as much anymore. That's fine. So I'm going to get user, and I'm going to, from decoded token, I'll take the username. And then when that's done, I take the user object that I get, and I do response dot, or request dot user equals user. I'll add to the request, or, and then I call next. If, let's see, if there's a user, then add it to the request and call next. Else, call next, and this uses node style callbacks. So if we pass anything in that first argument, then it's treated as an error. So we can say user doesn't match. And we can catch any problems in there, like if the token doesn't work, something like that. Actually, it's up here. Let's say if error, throw new error, invalid token, and then we can catch anything else and say console.error, whatever the error message was, and call next. Error problem authenticating user. Okay, so here's what happens. If you call next with that error, it looks for error handling middleware. And I kind of forget the pattern for this, but it's another one of those like, well, if you put a string here, kinds of things. So let me look at how I did it on Develop Number Infinity. Error handling. This. This is the new clever way we did it. Oh, it's if you give it 4 arguments, that's how it knows. I will say that the API design on Express is dog shit. This is so fucking bad. Having all these functions that are slightly different based on the kinds of arguments you give them, that's some wannabe Java nonsense. So if we do an app.use error request response next. Is that how it works? No, it's a function that takes in. Yeah, that's right. All 4 of those. Then that lets us response dot send status 400 and do something like log the error. Let's take the whole thing. All right, neat. So now, with all that stuff that I did, what I should have now is I can just add this to these, and now they require authentication. And if they don't pass authentication, they fail. Also, for whatever reason, I want to get the user that authenticated in. That's available to me now in request.user and all those later functions. That's pretty fucking cool. Let's see if it works. Bon suerte, mi amigo. Absolutely, anytime. Okay, so now if I try to do the same thing, it should error out because I didn't give it a token. Syntax error. Perfect. On app 25. There we go. It's running. Bad request, 400. Fuck yes! Meanwhile, if I give it a valid token, which I should have hiding over here somewhere. And if I do that and make the same request, maybe? Hey, it let me do it. That's pretty fucking cool. So, any errors? Some errors. Cannot destructure proper username of undefined or null. So I take it was not able to successfully look up the user. That's interesting. That was an app 38. Oh, weird. Why? How strange. Oh, I know why. Because it's the token, it puts it in like payload or some shit like that. So this should actually be like, I don't know, token.payload.username or something. Let's see what it is. Token. Something I didn't like in there. There we go. No, it's right there. Weird. So okay, good to go. Yeah, all right, well, whatever. That's fine. Oh wait, was that not what I was getting? Whoa! Oh, you know why? Because I'm creating Elise Coberly as Kyle Coberly. Kyle Coberly is who owns the token. Interesting. Okay. So I feel a lot better about those two, protecting those two routes now. And let's take a look at my checklist. Okay, needs to add it to the README. That is, well, let's see. So I can say adds resources standards for admins, create users. Let's see, admins can create users admins can add resources to standards. And all right, so let's look at anything else that needs to change here. Good. That env example needs to change. So oh no, it's got one. It does need the database URL though. All right, README is updated. That's pretty good. And then I need to deploy it. And then before I do that, oh, I haven't been adding this one. Part of my definition of done, I'm going to make refactored one also. Because, like, I don't want to, it's just in the top level app.js thing, all this, like, authenticate user shit, that should go somewhere else. But I'm going to pause here for right now. I'm going to pick that up in a sec. I'm going to go to the bathroom first.